This meeting is being recorded.
Hello and welcome to the January 19th, 2022 meeting of the Gloucester Conservation Commission. The time is 6:04 p.m. Consistent with Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, this meeting will be conducted by remote participation. The public may not physically attend this meeting, but every effort will be made to allow the public to view and listen to the meeting in real time and participate when necessary. Persons who wish to do so are invited to view the meeting at the remote meeting website link provided on the City of Gloucester website, or join by phone using any of the phone numbers posted on the meeting notice and agenda with webinar ID 885-1119-4265. In the event that a live transmission proves unworkable for any reason, an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of the meeting will be made available on the city's website as soon as possible. Upcoming meetings of the Gloucester Conservation Commission are on February 2nd and February 19th, and permit products that are closed and set to issue after this meeting tonight will be issued on February 3rd. We did have quite a few requests to continue that came in very late this afternoon. I actually was able to have the clerk's office post a revised agenda right at 4 p.m., but I'll walk everybody through it now. At the beginning, RDA 1703 Salt Island is now under the care and custody of DeRosa Environmental Consulting, who requests to continue to April 6th. NOI 0282811 14 Fort Hill Ave, also in the care of DeRosa Environmental Consulting, requests to continue to March 2. NOI 0282815 33 Two Penny Lane with Mike DeRosa and Environmental Consulting, requests to continue to February 16th. NOI 0282820 24 Huff Ave for the City of Gloucester, Jonathan Nero at Beta Group Incorporated has requested to continue to February 2. And finally, NOI 0282825 128 Wheeler Street, represented by John Judd at Gateway Consultants Incorporated, request to continue to February 2. That is due to an error from our office. We misprinted something on the legal notice, and so we will have to renotice that hearing. Otherwise, many new business items were issued DEP file numbers tonight. In fact, all of them. So 28R Sleepy Hollow Road now has DEP file number 0282824. 186 Hesperus Avenue now is 0282821. 21 Thatcher Road is now 0282823. And 3048 and 50 Atlantic Avenue is now 0282822. I think that is all to cover. One thing I wanted to comment on is that NOI 0282817 49 Winger Chic Road is still on the agenda because there was a question in the minutes. We did close the hearing, but I don't think that we approved this item.
Minutes say
they said that they did. Is that correct?
yes.
Okay.
Well, I questioned after the fact or sometime because the minutes, I believe, say that they were approved. Let me go back and look right now.
Okay, while you're doing that, Anjo, I'm just going to throw in a little bit of a selfish request. Is there any chance, as my eyes get weaker as I get older, that we can print these agendas a little bigger? I can barely read them.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'd be happy to.
All right, 49. Was that, there it is, 49 Winger Chic. Okay, and then it went down to the end.
We did table it.
Yeah, and it went back down to the end. What is that? Oh, come on. That's 24 Huff, no. Roll call. Aforementioned changes. Co-chair Jackson moved to close the public hearing. Ms. Charpentier seconded. Co-chair Jackson moved to approve with the aforementioned changes. Ms. Charpentier seconded and approved unanimously.
Okay, then that's an error on the
Okay.
agenda, and I humbly request that the chair allow me to strike it.
Yes, please do.
Thank you. Okay,
Anything else in the administrative briefing portion, Adrian? Are we good?
yes, actually, one of your commissioners, fellow commissioners, Commissioner Cook, did ask that we put on the calendar a Conservation Commission administrative meeting. We talked about this last in December when we were approving our calendar for regularly scheduled meetings on the agenda. A couple of things have come up that I know a few commissioners would really like to talk about, just in terms of policies and procedures and other things that are happening within the city that the commission may want to have a voice in or participate in. And so I'm just proposing a meeting date. This will be February 3rd. It's a Thursday. We could potentially try to do it at 5 or 6 o'clock. There would be no public hearings, just strictly a discussion on things like standard language for special conditions, some of the ongoing policy positions that the Conservation Commission takes when looking at hearings. And of course, whatever may come up that commissioners want to bring forth. I'm open to feedback. I hope everybody's available. It would hopefully be only about an hour long.
Well, we don't need to go, what I would do is offline, we'll do, if commissioners, I can do the 3rd, I believe, but I think
Yes, I can.
just email in to Adrian or text in and let us know after you've been able to check your books whether or not the 3rd works for you.
Mhm.
And then moving along, then the next part of our meeting would be the public comment period. This is the period where the public is welcome to speak towards any conservation issues that are not, I repeat, not on tonight's agenda. If so, you may do, if you would like to speak, you may do so by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
Okay, Chairman Geller, there are 54 attendees on the call at this time. And I see no hands.
Okay.
No hands to comment.
Okay,
Oh,
with that
oh,
then.
No, my hand is up.
There you go.
Whoop, and it's down. Never mind.
Someone was fanning themselves, that's all. So with that then, seeing none, hearing none, I'll close the public comment period. Next up would be minutes review and approval. We have the January 5th minutes. Angela, if you want to move those. Who's going to be doing all the seconding if Linda's
Barry
not
will.
here?
If
Barry
Linda's
Very
here,
well.
we'll have
Okay,
Barry do it.
okay.
Okay. Commissioner Jackson moves to approve the Conservation Commission minutes for January 5th, 2022 as amended.
Gradwell seconds.
And a roll call. Commissioner Charpentier is not here tonight. Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Commissioner Gullah,
Yes,
and Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you.
thank you. Next up is continued business. We're at RDA 1703, Salt Island Road, Salt Island LLC. Evan, I'm never going to be able to pronounce her name. How do you pronounce that, Adrian?
Govendaran.
Evan Gervenderin, representing from the DeRosa Environmental Consulting. Requests a continuation to April 6th.
That's correct.
Yes. Commissioner Jackson moves to continue Salt Island RDA 1703 to the Concom meeting of April 6th.
Gradwell seconds.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwall,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Co-Chairman Gulla, excuse me,
Yes.
and Co-Chair Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is RDA 1713, 101 Eastern Ave, Braga, John Judd at Gateway Consultants representing. I'll be recusing and shutting off my video and music.
Okay. I will chair this one. RDA 1713, 101 Eastern Avenue. Do we have Mr. Judd present?
We do, Madam Chair. Thank you. For the record, John Judd, engineer with Gateway Consultants representing D.O. Braga for this property at 101 Eastern Avenue. This is the residential dwelling just before Dunkin' Donuts on Eastern Avenue as you approach going toward Rockport. This is a single-story ranch right now, and Mr. Braga would like to put on a second story. And there is no grading proposed with this application, and so it's more or less just a second story addition with no filling and grading. So we're requesting a negative determination for this project, whereas there is no impact to the wetlands proposed. We are talking about a buffer zone that is off-site, adjacent to the property. So I can answer any questions you might have at this time.
Okay. I'm going to open this up for public hearing, for public comment first, and then we'll go through commissioner questions. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment on the project at 101 Eastern Avenue?
Okay, there are 39 attendees on the call and no members of the public to comment at this time.
Okay, in that case, I'll close the public comment period. And let's do roll call by commissioners.
Commissioners, Commissioner Cook,
No comments.
Commissioner Gradwall,
No comment.
Commissioner Sargent.
I'm wondering if there's any increase in impervious surface, such as the second floor being cantilevered over the first floor, and where the staging area is proposed to be located. And is there any protection to keep windblown debris from entering the wetland? That's it. Thank you.
And we'll finish commissioner comments and then you can answer everything at once, Mr. Judd.
Sure.
And I believe I'm next.
Yep, Co-Chairman Gulla has recused and therefore Co-Chairwoman Jackson is next.
Yes, there was a notation on the plan that you are also rebuilding an existing deck and steps in the existing location. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and answer Mr. Sargent's questions?
Okay, so the staging area, there would be a dumpster. The parking behind exists behind the structure at this time. So you can see on the sketch, the siltation barrier would be around the house. There would be a dumpster behind the house. Access is gained again through the driveway, which is on the left side as you face the house, and there'd be a dumpster there to address any building debris during construction, as well as an erosion control barrier. Relative to the impervious area, there is, to my knowledge, there's no cantilevering. We did submit the building plans, which are basically just showing the same footprint being raised to the second story. So there is no impact as far as additional impervious area proposed.
And there's no expansion of the deck and steps.
No, those are replaced in kind as shown.
Okay,
Existing location.
okay. There any other questions, commissioners? Speak now. Okay, I think this is pretty straightforward. I will entertain a motion regarding RDA 1713.
I thought it was 1703, but Gradwell has
It
a
is.
negative, suggests
It is.
a negative determination for RDA 1703, 101 Eastern Avenue, Braga.
No, it's 10713.
Yeah, it's 1-3 on the agenda.
Gradwell suggests a negative determination on RDA 1713 at 101 Eastern Avenue, Braga.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you. Do we have a second?
I second.
And a roll call.
Thank you, Bill.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes,
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you. Would you move to close the hearing, please?
Oh, that's right. Barry?
Gradwell moves to close the hearing on RDA 1713 101 Eastern Avenue, Braga.
Bill Cook seconds.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes,
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
And commissioners, just for your reference, the four of you will have to sign this so that we can issue it because you are the only quorum on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
one of the things I don't understand, Adrian, is I have been told repeatedly that anybody can sign it. It is just that you're signing it as a witness to the vote, that you're certifying the vote, not anything that you agree with it.
You're absolutely right. That is absolutely true.
Okay, I'm back. Are we all good with we're good to go?
We are.
Okay, next up, notice of intent 28-2811, 14 Fort Hill Ave. 14 Fort Hill Ave nominee trust. I'll just go with Evan. I can't say it. How do you pronounce that again, Adrian?
Evan Govendarin,
Evan Govendarin
you're doing great.
at DeRosa Environmental, oh my God. DeRosa Environmental with, now I lost my place. DeRosa Environmental Consulting requests a continuation to March 2nd. Wow, did that hurt? Let's, can we move that?
Commissioner Jackson moves to continue NOI 0282811 at 14 Fort Hill Ave to the Conservation Commission meeting of March 2nd. I make it look easy, don't I, Rob?
Yes, you do. Wow.
And Gradwell seconds, as long as he doesn't have to say the name.
And a roll call, Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes,
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Co-Chairman Gullah,
Yes.
and Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is NOI 28, no DEP number 105 Winger Sheep Road, lots A and B. 125 Winger Chic LLC with Joel Favazza at Legal Seaside Legal Solutions LLC represented. I assume we're getting an update. You're up.
Thank you. Good evening. For the record, Joel Favazza, Seaside Legal Solutions, 123 Main Street in Gloucester, here on behalf of 125 Winger Chic LLC, the owner of 105 Winger Chic. We are still waiting on the Conservation Commission to secure a third-party review, is my understanding. I've been in talks with Ms. Lennon, and she's been working the phones, trying to get someone to pick this up. And she may have more information on that than I do at the time, but right now we're kind of in a holding pattern, just waiting to get, I believe it was Commissioner Cook's question at the roadside of this property answered by a third-party reviewer. My client otherwise remains ready to proceed, but we have to just kind of be patient until this happens.
Okay, I need to recuse on any voting, so we're just moving this ahead. You have a
Yep.
date? Oh, there it is. It's here. You want to request a continuation to February 16th, correct?
I mean, at this point, I'd like to, if we hear from the conservation agent as to any update on the progress of getting a third-party reviewer. I don't want to continue to a date that's not realistic, but I also don't want to lose sight of trying to get this done.
Adrian, anything to add?
Sure, I did actually get a call back from BSC Group, and they are taking a look at the notice of intent. I think that we can look at this again, hopefully at the second meeting in February. I am trying to set up a site visit for the week of February 6th. So that would be the February 16 meeting.
That works for us, and obviously, just give us a heads up about the site visit if possible. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, with that then, can we get a motion to continue the project at 105 Wingashiek to February 16th, 2022?
Commissioner Jackson moves to continue 105 Wingashiek lots A and B to the Conservation Commission meeting of February 16th.
And Gradwell seconds.
roll call, Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Co-Chairman Gullah
I'll recuse.
is recused, and Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Next up is a non-issue. We're okay now with 49 Wingashiek Road?
That is correct. You are skipping 33 Penny Lane.
Oh, I'm sorry. All my markups. Okay, notice of intent 28-2815 33 Penny Lane. D. Filippo, Mike DeRosa at DeRosa Environmental requests a continuation to February 16th, 2022.
Commissioner Jackson moves to continue NOI 0282815 at 33 Penny Lane to the Conservation Commission meeting of February 16th.
Gradwell seconds.
And roll call, Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Co-Chairman Gullah,
Yes.
and Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, again, we're done with 49 Wingashiek Road, so we can move on to notice of intent 0282818 4480A Washington Street, Powers, Michael Powers applicant. I saw him earlier.
I'm here.
There he is. Brief description of the project, sir.
We're trying to put a dock and some floats on the back property. We're not changing the house. There's not going to be any change in development or anything like that. It was previously approved. And we're just looking to same approval that they had before for the dock. Now, at the last meeting, on the plan, they wanted us to, which I had actually sent over to the conservation office, that where it says we won't use toxic materials. And that was the only thing that we needed to change. So you had asked about an alternative analysis that was actually included in the packet that I had sent down there. So I think you guys have the alternative analysis.
Yes.
It's the same one that they had previously used, and had it approved previously.
And
Okay,
commissioners, the other matter that came up was that we obviously had to refer this out to the Shellfish Warden and the Harbor Master. Both of them came back to me today with memos in support.
okay.
Okay.
So I will open this up for public comments. If anybody wishes to speak for or against the project at 480A Washington Street, you may do so now by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
All right, there are 30 members of the public on the call and no hands up at this time.
Okay. Commissioner comments, maybe go through those, or should we vote on the riverfront?
On the alternatives analysis, I
Yeah.
think so, before any discussion, yeah.
Correct. So we need to do that now.
Okay, Commissioner Jackson moves to approve the alternatives analysis for 480A Washington Street.
Gradwell seconds.
And a roll call, Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Co-Chairman Gullah,
Yes.
and Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now we can move on to any other mitigation features. So why don't we move on to commissioner comments on if any mitigation, any concerns from here on this project, basically. So Adrian, if you want to go through a roll call for commissioner comments.
Commissioner Cook,
No additional comments. We get the information we asked for from, thank you.
Commissioner Gradwell,
No comment.
Commissioner Sargent,
No comments.
Co-Chair Mangala,
No comment.
and Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
No comment.
Thank you.
Mr. Jackson moves to close the public hearing for 480A Washington Street, NOI 0282818.
And Gradwell seconds.
And a roll call, Commissioner Cook,
Yes,
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes,
Co-Chair Mangala,
Yes.
and Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
I think I did that too soon. We hadn't gone through, oh, yes, we did go through commissioner comments. Okay. Did Rob open it up for public comment? Yes. Okay.
Yep.
We're all a little vacant tonight, Adrian.
I'm just glad I'm not alone. Woo.
Yes, then I vote yes, by the way. Okay, Commissioner Jackson moves to approve the project for NOI 0282818 at 480A Washington Street.
And Gradwell seconds.
Commissioner Cook,
yes,
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
yes,
Co-Chair Mangala,
Yes.
and Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes,
Thank you. I blame Commissioner Charpentier, who's at the top of the roll call,
really.
for tripping me.
He's thrown us
Mr. and
all
Mrs.
off.
Powers, you're all set.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks, guys.
Now, is it how or how have, is
It's
that
Huff,
being
isn't it?
continued?
I think it's Huff.
It's
Is
Huff.
Huff being continued or?
The project at Stage Fort Park is going to be continued. There was a request to continue at the very last moment to February 2. We are still trying to schedule the site visit. And just Commissioners Gala and Sargent, I know you were interested in attending. I wonder if you are available Monday or Tuesday next week.
Definitely Tuesday for me.
Okay,
And I'm pretty open all day.
Commissioner Sargent.
I think so, but I don't have my calendar. But I
Okay.
think- yeah.
I'll be following up with both of you, and Commissioner Gradwell, did you also want to attend that?
No, it's not necessary. I took a walk down there the other day and everything looks beautiful. You know, what they're trying to do is very, very nice.
Great. Okay. So I will connect with both of you tomorrow to get a date on the calendar.
Thank you.
Okay, meanwhile,
Nina.
Mr. Jackson moves to continue NOI 0282820 24 Huff Avenue to the Conservation Commission meeting on February 2nd.
And Gradwell seconds.
Roll call. Commissioner Cook,
yes,
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes,
Co-Chair Mangala,
Yes.
and Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes,
Thank you. Okay.
Next up. RDA 1720420 Washington Street, Fahey, Dan Ottenheimer at Mill River Consulting representing. We're in new
Good
business.
evening, Mr. Yes. Can you hear me okay, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, we can.
Okay,
We
great.
can.
Hello.
Hello.
So any of the commissioners happen to have been the Shellfish Constable in 2002, you might recall this property. This was a dock that was approved by the commission back then and a Chapter 91 license issued. And this also happens to have been the house that my wife and kids and I lived in at that time. New owners took over and the Chapter 91 license has lapsed. So in order to reapply for that, we would kindly request the commission consider issuance of a negative determination for the items that are out there for the last 20+ years or so. We're not proposing to do anything, but in order to reapply for a Chapter 91 license, we need some type of vote from the commission. So that's what this is before you this evening.
Okay, I will open up for public comments. Anyone in the public who wishes to speak for or against the project at 420 Washington Street may do so now by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
Okay, there are 20 attendees on the call and no members of the public to comment at this time.
Seeing none, hearing none, I'll close the public comment period. Why don't we do roll call comments from commissioners, Adrian?
Sure. Commissioner comments. Commissioner Cook.
No comments.
Commissioner Gradwell.
No comment.
Commissioner Sargent.
No comment.
Co-Chair Magella
No comment.
and Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
I really don't have any substantial comment other than if we approve this originally, wouldn't there be a determination at that time? But I have no.
Yeah, there wasn't.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I spoke over you. I apologize. Did you want to
Okay.
get the rest of the comments and then I can answer that?
I don't think
Yes,
there are any more.
I think she's it.
Okay.
And Joe's it.
So, yes, the commission issued an order of conditions back in 2001 or 2002. I showed that to the DEP and they said they needed something contemporary. So their suggestion was apply for a request for determination of applicability, ask the commission to give a negative determination.
Okay, that's fine. In that case then, Commissioner Jackson moves to close the public hearing for 420 Washington Street, RDA 1720.
Gradwell seconds.
Roll call, Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Co-Chair Magella,
Yes.
and Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes,
Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson moves for a negative determination for RDA 1720 at 420 Washington Street.
Gradwell seconds.
And roll call, Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Co-Chairman Gella,
Yes.
and Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes,
Thank you.
Next
Thank you,
up,
commissioners. Appreciate your time.
you're welcome. Have a good night. Next up, notice of intent 028-2825, 128 Wheeler Street, Arena, John Judd at Gateway Consultants representing. They request a continuation to February 2nd, 2022.
Commissioner Jackson moves to continue NOI 0282825 at 128 Wheeler Street to the Conservation Commission meeting of February 2nd, 2022.
Gradwell seconds.
And roll call, Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Co-Chair Magella,
Yes.
and Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes,
Thank you.
Next up, notice of intent 28-2824, 28R Sleepy Hollow Road. All right, John, tell me how to say this name. Shezzy?
Oh, Chelsea, yes, I'm sorry.
Shelsey. Shelsey, John Judd at Gateway Consultants, Inc., representing. Name, brief description, sir?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, John Judd, engineer with Gateway Consultants representing David Shelsey, who is the recent purchaser of this property at 28 Rear Sleepy Hollow Road. Thank you, Adrian has that, it shows the locus on that previous, and this is the site plan that is basically showing what's on the property now. There's an existing system, a septic system. You can see there's an access easement that leads to Sleepy Hollow Road, or from Sleepy Hollow Road into the property across the what is shown as lot 35. And the proposal is to replace the existing failed septic system, which is basically in the same location, That would be a advanced treatment pressure dose system that would be underneath the driveway. So that would have excellent treatment for that and be an upgrade to the area as far as the distribution of the effluent on this property. The second component to this application is the raising the existing deck that's behind the house. It's currently at ground level, and it is seasonally just covered with sand from the sand dunes that change from year to year out here, as everyone knows. And so rather than shoveling out that snow off that deck, in accordance with CZM standards, we're proposing to use helical pier supports and raise that up to match that existing deck at the same elevation. And the difference in elevation would be approximately 3 feet, 3.5 feet. That would allow for some movement of sand underneath this proposed deck. And that's really the extent of it. We do show proposed erosion control and the limit of work. You can see with the hatch line. We typically use the snow fencing to allow the wind to go through there. It's a bright orange fence that really lets the contractors know that there's no more activity beyond that point. And that's really it. That's the extent of the project, is to replace the septic system and to raise the deck in the same footprint. There would be no expansion of that footprint. Can answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
All right, I'll open up for public comment first. This is anyone from the public is welcome to speak for or against the project at 28R Sleepy Hollow Road. You may do so by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen, or by hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
There are 27 attendees on the call, no members of the public to comment at this time.
Okay, with that then, we can go to roll call comments from the commissioners.
Sure, commissioner comments, Commissioner Cook.
You have the retaining wall, John, there's the retaining wall out front, but nowhere here. I know how do they access the beach from this location? Do they go out to Sleepy Hollow?
From when I was out there, Bill, they actually walk down the stairs. They can walk right. The beach is, as you know, is right there at the property line. So, or within the property. So, as shown on the primary coastal dune. So, yeah, you can see that's. I'm not sure when this aerial was taken, but you can sort of see the passage through the scarp there, and that's what I saw. I'm not sure the date of this photograph, but that is their access.
Okay, I'm just wondering why this area, I mean, if you look at the overhead, it looks like it's all dug out compared to everything else. And according to your drawing, I mean, it's a lot lower than all the prevailing areas in there. I'm just wondering, raising the deck so that you can see over it, is there something else going on here?
No, it's exactly, if I could, Mr. Chairman. So the intent is, again, they don't, when I was out there in the fall, that deck, that existing, it's right at grade, and there's a lot of sand over. I actually had to use a shovel to find the corners when we surveyed this. So what they want to do is just, is there a view issue involved? I can't say there isn't, but the intent is to make it all one level with the upper deck, is shown there, and it's about a 3.5 foot difference between the two. But the intent is not to expand the deck; it's just to raise it to allow the movement of sand through underneath this deck. The entire house is on piers, so it does allow for that. This is an unusual situation where the deck is right at grade and seasonally just gets covered with the sand.
Just like I said, it's just, looking at the aerial photographs, I mean, it just looks like we should be doing something to, I'm going to say minimize where the access is and do some type of restoration in that area to help build up those dunes, because it's a bare spot compared to everything else.
I don't disagree, and it's probably for their own protection, because, it's just it's a real opening there, and, from wind and tidal action, I don't disagree. And I'm sure the owner would not have a problem with kind of tightening that up, not having that opening as wide as it is.
I think that would be appreciated.
Yeah. I guess my question, Bill, would be, how would that be done? Would you allow a machine out here to put sand out there to renourish that dune?
Wow. Yeah, we did allow that next door over at the one next door over at Dragus. When they did theirs, we did allow that because they also had a retaining wall inside, and they built it all back up. The one, if
Okay.
you're looking at that photo, this would be the one on the right-hand side of it.
Oh, Dagris, yeah, okay, yeah, Dagris,
Zagros.
yeah.
And you can see where that looks like it was all just dug out right there. So that's why I really think we need to have something there, because especially where it is so much lower than any of the prevailing dunes in that either side of it.
Yeah, and it is, he's definitely been, he's owned the property for only a couple months. So this photograph is obviously taken before that, but he found out the hard way, the wind and rain elements and obviously tide out here, because the lounge chair that he had the first week he was out here went through the window into the living room after a storm, during a storm event this fall. So he understands it, he respects it, and I'm sure he has no issue with, kind of tightening up that dune opening.
Okay, yeah, even if it's possible to put something out, extending from the deck, but I'll leave that up to you when you come back.
Yeah, what I'll do, Bill, is if you don't mind, I'll recommend to him maybe, if he wants to do that in the future, maybe filling that whole dune in and doing an elevated boardwalk just to get over it. That way that can be, that sort of gap can be closed. There's about a 3 to 4 foot drop between the top of that dune scarp and the grade there. And that would also, assist with wave protection during storm events.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay. Commissioner Gradwell,
No comment.
Commissioner Sargent.
I, agree with Bill's comments, and I think they're well taken. I'm just wondering, because you're so close to the primary dune and it cuts in there, this is out of the National Heritage area, correct?
It was very close, Dave. We actually submitted as part of our package, a sketch showing that it's right on the line. So we went ahead and submitted it to National Heritage just to make sure that they were okay. So we did check that box, and it is right on the line. So just to be safe, we submitted it.
Have you heard back from them yet?
I have not heard back.
Okay, Co-Chair Bengala.
I would agree with my fellow commissioners to date. I wouldn't get into means and methods too much, but I think there is an opportunity here. If this gentleman has only owned the property, I don't know if he's been on Wingersheek before, but the bottom line is these dunes are not only, important for the environment, but this primary dune is important to all the houses along there. So I think if you went back to your client and said, basically what between the conversations with the commission and some of your concepts, I think there's a solution that is not only good for the environment and restructuring the dune, but also giving your client a chance in a heavy event to protect his property as well. I mean, I think there's a middle ground here, and I think a little more work and it'll be great for both parties.
Okay. Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Actually, I'd like to hear your comments, Adrian. Would this be an expansion of the current application? How would all this work?
Sure. So, the commission is a little bit limited in terms of what they're really able to ask the applicant to do. Our role is to review the projects as they're set forth before us. But in acknowledging there's some history of modifying the dune here, and obviously that's actually part of living on this property and trying to manage the sand that's coming right up against the house. I wonder if the commission would and the applicant would entertain the idea of identifying on the plan the beach access location. So, for example, just staking and stringing a rope from, the property, the edge of the deck, for example, or maybe just beyond the edge of the deck across the top of that primary dune to the edge of that property, that would, say a 3-foot wide path that's shown on the plan, and then, maybe staked very simply on the property, and identifying the dune on either side to be a no disturb zone and allow that to reestablish on its own.
That sounds like a better middle ground.
Yeah, I like that. I can live with that.
We can certainly do that. We can add that to the plan if that's the desire of the commissioners.
Yeah, I think that will help also for the new property owner to understand that obviously beach access is part of their rights as the ownership, but and also, if eventually in the future they decide to go to an elevated boardwalk or something like that, and they want to actually do work in the dune, certainly they're welcome to apply for a restoration project. But between now and then, just knowing where they plan to access the beach and acknowledging that they're not going to be stockpiling things like boats and kayaks and all their beach activities and equipment right in front of the deck on the location of the dune where we're really hoping to rebuild it. It will only take a couple of seasons to stabilize a little bit more. So I think it would help.
Okay, so the final question then would be is, do we need to continue this, or can we condition this forward?
I think we do need to continue it. As a principal, I always like to receive the comments back from National Heritage Endangered Species Program and have them on the record before we issue a permit, because sometimes they do come back and have more to say than the usual.
No, you're right. I forgot about National Heritage. You're correct. Okay, Mr. Judd. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'd like to make sure the client is on board with this.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. So, Mr. Judd, is this something, you obviously have 2 weeks to talk to your client. Are you clear with what we're asking for, and are you okay with that?
Absolutely. I can modify that plan and show exactly what Adrian is suggesting. I think it's a good idea. And then hopefully in the next 2 weeks, we'll have the final comments, if any. Typically, we get the letter saying this would be no impact, particularly where it's a septic system and a deck in the same location, no impact to the piping plovers. But yeah, we're okay with that. 2 weeks is fine, February 2nd, and then I'll modify the plan in the interim to reflect what Adrian suggests.
Okay. For the record, that Adrian, keep her out of hot water.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Adrian put it out there, but the board accepts it.
Yeah, so they would allow us to make revisions to the plan as we, after I speak with the client.
Okay. Anything else, commissioners? So I guess we want to move to continue to February 5th, is that it?
Second.
February 2nd.
Yes. Commissioner Jackson moves to continue NOI 0282824 at 2028R Sleepy Hollow Road to the Conservation Commission meeting of February 2nd, 2022.
Gradwell seconds.
And a roll call. Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Co-Chairman Gullah,
Yes.
and Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Judd, you're all set with that one.
All right, thank you very
Next
much.
up
Have a
is-
good night.
You too. Next up is notice of intent 28-2821, 186 Hespers Avenue, Herlihy and Legendre. Bill Manuel, Wetlands Land Management representing.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I have to say what a pleasant surprise to hear all the agenda items drop off. I thought for sure we'd be here talking about this about 9 o'clock tonight.
Don't jinx us.
I no, I hope not to. So the commission is familiar with this property. The previous owner just last year filed and received an order of conditions to do some work on 186 Hesperus Avenue. But they subsequently sold the property, and so that order was never even recorded. So and this project here is sufficiently different that we felt it was appropriate to file a new notice of intent to document the additional work that's going on. So this property is right on the waterfront in Magnolia. It's one of these glamorous waterfront homes in Magnolia. It looks great on the outside, but the bones of it are pretty bad. Some of the porches on the water side of the home, they were added on well after the initial construction, and they were built on piers, and some of those piers are actually failing, and the porches are pulling away from the house. So where Adrian's cursor is, that whole section of structure, mostly porches and decks, are going to be removed, and that will be rebuilt. There is like a 50s era carport that was built onto the structure on the north side. And the north side would be the right side of the plan. And that area, that carport is going to be removed and rebuilt with a 3-car garage. All of this happens to be in resource area from really from across the road. There is a perennial stream across the road. It's an unnamed brook. And so the 200-foot riverfront area does extend onto the property and actually encompasses the entire home. There's just a fringe of bank or BVW that follows the stream as well. I flagged the bank or BVW plus the mean annual high water line that's been survey located and added to the plan. So all the resource area determinations are essentially fresh from for this application. So the proposal is to remove that carport and rebuild it with a 3-car garage, remove the structures on the southerly side and rebuild that. The entire exterior of the home is going to get new siding, new windows, doors. Every square inch of this structure on the outside is going to get touched. The interior is a heavy gutting and renovation, so this is really almost an all-new home by the time we get done here. At the end of the project, the driveway is going to be expanded to accommodate the new 3-car garage. And there's a parking area on the right side or the north side that is going to allow some more parking for healthcare visitors that are going to be coming to the house on a regular basis. So we have the riverfront area. I presented you a riverfront alternatives analysis. The entire home is in the riverfront. This is a renovation of the home, so obviously I can't pick the home up and move it. So the alternatives analysis was simple in that since the entire home's there in the riverfront area, the only other alternative would be to not do the work, and then the part of the structure would fail and you'd be limited to that 1950s carport. So I'm hoping the commission is in agreement with my alternatives analysis. And if you need to take a vote on that now, you can do that, or I could just.
Yeah, why don't you continue with your review and then we'll go into,
Okay.
We'll deal with that. This may change something. So,
all right.
I guess I know we should, I'm sorry, we should probably do it now. That's correct. So, and Joe, do you want to put forth a motion for the alternatives analysis?
Yes, Commissioner Jackson moves to approve the alternatives analysis for NOI 028 2821 at 186 Hesperus Avenue.
Gradwell seconds.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Co-Chairman Gullah,
With this unique situation, yes.
and Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
Moving
So
on to mitigation as
The
required.
overall increase of impervious area is 2,437 square feet. And there is an area on the easterly side of the lot. It looked like it was an old, perhaps a landscape bed at one point. It's filled with Pachysandra and privet now. And so what we're going to do is remove that Pachysandra and remove the privet, and then install native shrubs up in this area. And it would be, Adrian, it would be the diagonal of where you're pointing now, closer to the left, yeah, upper left there. Yep, right in there. So we're providing, or we're going to rip out all that Pachysandra and privet, and that provides almost 4,900 square feet of mitigation. That is a 2-to-1 ratio for the increase of impervious area. The one thing I forgot to quantify was the tree removal. And there is one 15-inch crabapple behind the home that is identified to be removed. And then there are 2 trees in the very front of the home that are extremely close to the house, and they are going to be removed as well. So 3 trees will be removed, and we'll put 6 trees back into that 4,800 square foot mitigation area. I expect the commission would probably add that to the order of conditions.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Manning?
That'll be it.
Okay. So first off, I'll open it up for public comment. Anybody in the public is welcome to speak for or against the project at 186 Hesperus Avenue. You may do so by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen, or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
Adrian, you're muted.
Thank you.
Oops.
Richard, there are 25 attendees on the call, and Richard Jansen has your hand up. I've allowed you to talk and asked you to unmute. Go ahead.
Good evening. This looks like a very exciting project, and we're excited about seeing all the renovations that are going to take place. And with the old garage being taken down with that flat shed roof, I was just curious, is that going to be a single-story garage or a multi-story garage?
Unfortunately, sir, we deal in one dimension. We look at site plans as it relates to conservation. We don't get into structure, how the structure is going to look.
I see. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, and John Pakowski, I'm going to allow you to talk and ask you to unmute, name and address for the record, please.
Hello, this is John Pakowski of 188 Hesperus, and we are the new owners of the property. And I was just curious, with the work that's being done, will this have any impact facing our property?
Okay.
We'll answer all these questions. We'll have the applicant list all. So you're.
This is 188.
Okay.
That's us. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else?
No other members of the public? Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Manuel, if you just want to comment on the concern the neighbor has of any impacts.
Yes,
might
it's
occur.
probably easier illustrated if the site plan is put back up. So you can see there is a line of erosion control that is going to isolate the mitigation area, and then it wraps around the south side of the house and then the eastern side of the home. So obviously we've isolated the work area so that it's to be remaining around the house itself. So I'm don't see how there could be any impact to the abutting property at 188.
Can you
If
scroll
that
down more,
answers
Adrian?
the question.
So the in-ground swimming pool's off your client's property? Is that what
No, that's on the property, but there's no work to be done on that pool.
okay. So there should be little or no. It'd be very difficult to have anything that happens there in terms of soils or soil migration getting over to their property.
I don't see how it would be possible. It'd have to
Me
be,
neither.
I don't see how it's possible.
Okay. All right, Adrian, why don't we move on to commissioner comments?
Okay, commissioner comments, Commissioner Cook.
The only question, I could have missed it, is with all the new impervious going up, how is the drainage being handled on the house? I didn't see any indication of rain gardens or anything like that to capture the runoff, and where everything slopes down. So that's my only question to the applicant.
Okay. Commissioner Gradwell.
My questions get to do with all these rebuilding of porches and decks and everything. I see that the wood shop is a additional impervious area, but all those decks and porches exist at the present time?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Sargent.
No other comments besides the previous two commissioners. I'd like to echo their concerns.
Okay. Co-Chair Mandela.
I concur with my fellow commissioners at this time.
Okay, and Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
I would also put in a vote for a little more clarification on where the new impervious is being added. Is it just in the garage structures, or are the decks being expanded as well? Okay.
Okay, Mr. Manuel, the floor is yours for those comments.
Okay, so in terms of runoff, the house is surrounded by an expanse of lawn. And presently the roof runoff is directed out into downspouts. I believe there's some kind of old roof drainage system. I'm not sure where it goes. But
Don't you fall under the city's 500 additional square foot rule or no?
yes, we do, and we will have to file for that. We have not filed for that yet.
Okay. So you haven't filed.
Usually,
Go ahead.
usually in these coastal situations, we're not worried about detaining water on the site because it drains to the ocean. We're more concerned about sediment control in this type of application. So I would expect that the city engineer would be looking at the erosion controls and making sure that there's nothing that directs either runoff water or sedimentation to the abutting properties.
So you're going to circle back to us if you go before the engineer, city engineer, and he says you need to do purple people eaters? Are we going to see this or?
Yeah, yes, because what we want to have happen is we want the contract to be, we're needing two permits. We need the order of conditions and we need the city drainage permit. And so we want the contractor to be working off one plan.
Mhm.
So if we have to do additional work in your jurisdiction, we certainly will be back and modify the plan.
Okay. I think they're covered it. Any other comments, commissioners? Adrian, anything to add?
No, I don't have anything to add.
I don't think Ron has addressed my question, Bill, sorry.
Your question about the decks and porches and where is this additional impervious coming from? There is this proposed wood shop that's here. You can see that the 3-car garage is slightly bigger than the carport roof. And there is an expansion of pavement. This area here is gravel now, and you can see that all the stippled area, that's all going to become pavement now. So that's where the increase of impervious area comes from. Yeah, all of this area here is within that footprint of what's there now.
And the proposed porch and the proposed wood shop are the only real additions to the building itself.
That is correct.
Okay. Right in the middle, you said there's an existing irrigation well to be removed and relocated. And is that where the current downspouts and everything are feeding into?
No, I'm not aware that the downspouts are going into an irrigation well.
Cool. I'm just trying to understand. You say it's going to be removed and relocated, but where is it?
I'm not sure they have a specific location for that irrigation well
there it
right
is.
now, but it's going to have to be removed. Oh, there it is right over there.
Here it is, right there.
Yep,
Okay, yeah.
Yep. Yep, sorry, I missed that detail.
Is that the proposed location of the well, or it needs to be relocated to somewhere else?
No, that
That is the proposed location.
Okay.
so is that got plumbing coming into it?
It would probably have a valve box, you know, it's for irrigation. And so it's going to be, there'll be a pump that directs it to a valve box and then out to sprinkler systems or wherever they're going to irrigate to their landscaping beds.
Okay.
Bill, this was typical of the houses built down there in the 30s when this was built.
Okay.
Gloucester had such restrictions on watering in the 40s and the 50s that a lot of people along the shore there put in private wells only for watering, only for irrigation.
Okay.
Anybody else? Anything else to add? So right now, the only condition I see is that if any additional work needs to be done by engineering to deal with roof runoff under the 500 plus 500 square feet rule, will be notified and amend as needed. Is there any other conditions commissioners want to add before we move on from this?
I think the plantings need to be conditioned,
Okay.
the restoration work on the mitigation area.
Mm-hmm. 2 year?
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else? All right, with that, and Joe, do you want to close the hearing?
Okay. Commissioner Jackson moves to close the public hearing for NOI 028.
Excuse me, did they call Barney Lichtenstein?
Not yet, Barney.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were closing the whole meeting.
Oh,
Sorry.
no. We got a ways to go.
Okay.
So am I closing the hearing?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Jackson moves to close the public hearing for NOI 0282821 for 186 Hesperus Avenue.
Gradwall seconds.
And a roll call, Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwall,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Co-Chairman Gulla.
Yes, with the aforementioned conditions that the 2 year mortality on the mitigation field, and that if any engineering or anything really changes substantive to the project, it needs to come either in an amendment form or an RDA before the commission.
Okay.
And Joe, you're up.
I'm sorry, I'm writing in Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes. Okay, Commissioner Jackson moves to approve NOI 0282821 at 186 Hesperus Avenue with the aforementioned conditions.
Gradwall seconds.
Roll call, Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Co-Chair Mangala,
Yes.
and Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, you're still here for another project. Let's see, we're up to notice of intent 28-2823, 21 Thatcher Road, Cephalo, Bill Manuel at Wetlands and Land Management, Inc., representing.
All right, continuing on. This is another sort of relook at a property that the commission issued an order of conditions for. I had brought a notice of intent for the previous owners of the property to do at the time, the first go around, it was a small addition off the back of the house. This would have occurred in riverfront area, and as you can see from the screen, the house is encumbered by land subject to coastal storm flowage. Fortunately, the finished floor elevation is already high enough above the mapped flood zone so that no modifications were necessary for the small addition. I came back to you for the same owner, the same previous owner, for an amendment to add a second story to the building, and that was approved by the commission. And then the owners decided that they didn't want to go through this extensive renovation, and they sold the property. And the present owner now, Mr. Frederick and Julia Cephalo, are coming back with a fairly similar proposal, although this time the dwelling, which is basically gutted inside now, that's just going to be taken down and will start fresh from the ground up. So this is a demo and a rebuild of the home. You can see, I told you it was a land subject to coastal storm flowage, the limit of which is basically, if you take the elevation, then it's way up in front of the lot. So the entire house is in land subject to coastal storm flowage. There is a tidal stream within the salt marsh, and it's a perennial stream. So there's 200 feet extending, riverfront area extending onto the property. The entire house is encumbered again by this riverfront area. Actually, the one more line down, Adrian, is the riverfront area there. And then there's salt marsh, which I flagged, and the 100-foot buffer zone line to the salt marsh is the previous line that Adrian was highlighting right there. So some of the work is in the buffer zone to the salt marsh. So we show appropriate erosion control across the back of around the work zone. It's all grass from the road all the way to the edge of the marsh. The house will get demoed. Obviously, they'll work from the front side of the structure. They collapse the structure in, put it on in a dumpster, and haul it away. After that, it's fairly standard process of pouring foundations and building the new home. So you can see the location of the home on the side that's closest to the river. That doesn't extend any closer to the river than what was there or what the commission approved with the last hearing. The home did get a little bit bigger by about 180 square feet bigger. We've accounted for that, and we have the appropriate mitigation in the back of the property along the salt marsh in the same location as what the commission approved. Only this time it's 658 square feet instead of, I think it was 360 the last time. So, the entire concept is relatively the same. I did have to put a little bit more work into the alternatives analysis now because this is a new structure. It's a tear down rebuild. So the entire home is encumbered by riverfront area. I want you to note where the front yard building setback line is. It's about 6 feet in front of the porch, the proposed porch. So the only alternative here to try to get the structure more outside of riverfront would be to pull that right up to the very front yard setback, about 6 feet forward. And that would get about 144 square feet additional structure outside the riverfront area. The problem is now well, logistically, the biggest problem is, you see, we barely have enough room now to get a vehicle off the road. It will be quite a challenge to go in and, maneuver in that Keystone driveway so they can pull out on Thatcher Road head on instead of backing out. So we have very tight parking in the front of the property that we don't want to encumber anymore. Secondly, we positioned the new home so that you can see it fits very nicely. The actual foundation fits exactly over where the deck and the foundation was on the existing home. And we thought it's better to redevelop what's already been developed, the existing foundation and house footprint, rather than to move it around and just have to restore that area anyway. So we felt that the best alternative is what we have shown. To pull it forward to gain 144 square feet would severely hamper the ability to get cars off the street and provide parking. So for that reason, we like our alternative the best. So if you need to consider that, I'll answer any questions on it.
Okay.
I will vouch for the fact that Thatcher Road is a nightmare in the summer.
You say that so for the parking issue, or?
Yes, they need to be able to, I can't imagine not being able to get in there and turn around and come out facing the traffic
Right.
rather than backing out. So they need that T shape. Admittedly, it's only 12 weekends a year, but those 12 weekends are awful.
Okay, so why don't we vote on the alternatives analysis before we move ahead? Or, yeah, and then we'll do public comment.
Okay. Are there any other comments on the alternatives analysis?
I wanted to make a comment on
Sure.
the alternatives analysis, and I'd like to ask the applicant's representative to discuss the alternative option of putting the home on piers. It is an AE zone with the elevation 16. The elevations on the ground floor are, or on the ground there are 14 and 15 feet. If parking is an issue, they certainly could elevate the home and park underneath it.
Would you like me to answer that now?
Yes.
The home is in the flood zone and the foundation is designed with flood vents in conformance with the state building code. So we have accommodated for the fact that it is in the land subject to coastal storm flowage. Again, moving it forward or elevating the home so to park underneath it would require, again, you'd only gain 144 square feet, but now your home is going to be, if you're going to park underneath it, then it's going to be 8 feet in the air. And it certainly would be the only home around these parts of Gloucester, any part of Gloucester, I think that has that situation. So, and we'd also run into building height restrictions because we'd be having to pick it up 8 feet, and then there's 2 stories on top of that. So I think the fact that there's flood openings mitigates for the land subject to coastal storm flowage.
Question, Mr. Manuel, to follow up, unless Adrian wants to follow up on this. Do you know how the house fared in the storm over the, what's today? Wednesday, over the weekend. There was flooding along Thatcher Road, I know.
Yep, Mr. Cefalo is on the call here and maybe he has better information. He's the telephone ending in 2199.
Ask him to raise his hand.
Yeah.
Fred,
Oh, there
would
it is.
you raise your hand and ask to be recognized? There you go.
He found him.
This is Fred Cefalo joining.
Hello,
Welcome.
sir. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
So our question was, we had a recent water event and we're curious how your house, did you get flooded in any way? How high up did the water come?
No, sir, the water came, there's a rock outcropping in the center of the yard, and it was probably, the water came 20 feet down from the rock towards the marsh.
Okay.
So as it relates to the house, high and dry.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir. That answered my question.
Can you tell me, how do I get off of this now?
No, you have to join the commission now. I think if you just hang up. Okay, and Joe.
Wasn't there a star 9 or something?
I
That
think it's
mutes?
I took care of it for him.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Adrian, did you have any follow-up?
Yeah, I mean, I understand the discussion around performance standards for land subject to coastal storm flowage, but I'm talking about having a discussion about the impact on the riverfront area in the alternatives analysis and how you could be potentially improving water management on the site by raising the structure to make it more resilient for the future. Just the fact that there are no homes on Thatcher Road today that are raised above the floodplain means nothing for the lifetime of this home because you are planning to raise and rebuild it. So if it is intended to be there in 20 or 30 years, it probably should be higher than the current flood elevation. That's all.
Okay. So I don't know, why don't we I'll open up for public comment. Anyone else in the public is welcome to speak for or against the project at 21 Thatcher Road. You may do so by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
Okay, there are 20 members of the public on the call at this time and no hands up to speak.
Okay, seeing none, hearing none, I'll close the public comment period. Roll call comments from the commissioners.
Sure. Commissioner comments, Commissioner Cook.
Okay, question on your impervious calculations. You shown putting a new shed way down. There's no dimensions on it. I don't know if that was included in your calculations, so that would be question one. And it just following up with Adrian, I mean, from what I was looking at, I just kind of assumed that it was going to be on pilings.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. We have not voted on the alternatives analysis yet. I don't know whether we should, given this proposed consideration by our agent. I'm wondering if we should just continue everything to give Mr. Manuel a chance to discuss things with his client.
I don't.
Go ahead.
I first of all, if we're worried about resiliency, that's what the state building code is about, and that's what that's why there are specific standards for construction in areas that are prone to flooding. And the foundation will have flood openings in it, which will alleviate and mitigate for the expected inundation according to the FEMA maps. Now, one thing I want to point out is that the FEMA maps have already baked in the expected rise in sea levels over the next 30 to 50 years. If you recall back in 2014, when the maps were revised, they miraculously overnight revised the flood zones up 3 feet in this area. And it's not that the ocean level rose 3 feet, it's that they anticipated the rise in 3 feet over the, shall we call it, the working lifetime of those maps. So the elevation of the floor is adequate. It's compliant with the building code requirements, and the foundation design is adequate. So I think that adequately mitigates for a flood area, and also it frankly improves the situation in riverfront than the current design right now, because right now there are no flood areas, or there are no measures for allowing flood water to move through and under the structure. So I think we have done a decent job in mitigating for that, and I think it is the best for the riverfront. Other than moving it 6 feet forward, I don't know that there's any better alternative, or any possible alternative, I should say.
This is Dave. Can I comment a little bit? I'm wondering if the building were moved forward where the proposed porch is and not into the parking area, it would be further away from the flooding area, and it would also lessen the impervious surface. I'm wondering if that's a consideration at all, or I'm just totally out of my mind.
The applicant has gone through some fairly extensive design with his architect, and the addition of that porch on the front is an important feature for them. So they'd rather not sacrifice the porch to move the building a small amount further that really doesn't have any bearing on getting the structure out of the flood zone, because at the end of the day, if the FEMA maps are to be relied upon, the entire lot's in the flood zone, if you look where elevation 16 is.
Didn't the new building code require that there be 2 foot of freeboard on an AE area? There had been
I
1
believe-
foot of board before, and then it moved to 2 foot in an AE zone.
I'm not aware of that. I thought it was 2 feet for a velocity zone and 1 foot for an AE zone. At the end of the day, it's going to be the building inspector's call of where he wants that finished floor elevation. But it was, when we did the previous application, it was acceptable to the building inspector then.
I would love to see that documented in the alternatives analysis. I think that that's a fair request, is a discussion and a raise and rebuild of a structure in the flood zone as to why you would choose to not put it up on piers and remove it entirely from flood elevation.
I think that's a fair request. And I
I'm
think it's
muted. I was muted.
Oh, were you talking? We wondered where you were.
I don't know when I even hit those say that again, Adrian. What did you want to see?
Discussion in the alternatives analysis as to why in a raise and rebuild of a structure, it is inadequate to be raising the
Candidate
structure
for
up.
this?
What's that?
A candidate for being put on piers?
Correct.
So,
I mean,
well,
The
no,
previous
no,
plan was, and obviously everything is an in situ review anyways, but the previous plan was an addition onto the home. And even at that time, the discussion we were having is, is the project going to be greater than a 50% improvement in the market value on the home? Because the previous homeowners and their application was, and they were aiming to do some pretty significant renovations and improvements to the property. So this is now the second time we're talking about it. And this time the applicant proposes to just entirely start over. And while it's true that it is land subject to coastal storm flowage, currently there are no performance standards for land subject to coastal storm flowage. It is in the AE zone. And so the first finished floor does not require the freeboard that it would need if it were in the velocity zone. However, there is an alternatives analysis for the riverfront area, and that may be a good place for the applicant to discuss their decision to put a slab foundation back in the ground and build a home that they know is not going to always be above a flood elevation that protects their property.
okay. All right, so Mr. Manuel, it looks like we're at a little bit of an impasse here. So what we're looking for is we're going to probably continue the project to basically have you write a more detailed alternatives analysis on why this could not be a good potential application for being on piers. You may end up with the same conclusions you started with, but we would appreciate a detailed reasoning on why in writing.
All right.
Commissioners, anything to add to that?
No,
Okay, so we're gonna move to continue this to the next meeting. Is that what you're looking for, Mr. Manuel?
Yes, yes, please.
Okay. Commissioner Jackson moves to continue NOI 0282823, 21 Thatcher Road to the Conservation Commission meeting of February 2nd.
Gradwall seconds.
A roll call, Commissioner Cook,
yes,
Commissioner Gradwall,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Co-Chair Mangala,
Yes.
and Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is notice on 1028-2822, 30, 48, and 50 Atlantic Avenue, Goodhue, Bill Manuel at Wetlands and Land Management representing. Excuse me.
Okay.
okay, I have to recuse myself on this one.
Okay. For the record, Bill Cook is recusing.
Do we have a quorum?
Yes.
Harry, Ann,
Yes.
Joe, Rob?
Yep.
4 of us.
Yeah, okay, good. So Bill Manuel again, Wetlands and Land Management. And so we're back to 38, 40, and 50 Atlantic Avenue. The last time I visited the commission, we had an ANRAD in front of you trying to determine all the resource areas that affected the property. The commission, the discussion basically centered around whether there was coastal dune. I don't think anybody had any problems with the determination of the wetlands or the top of coastal bank or where the limit of land subject to coastal storm flowage was. The discussion and the determination got elevated all the way to the adjudicatory level, where there was a final decision rendered by the commissioner. It was actually a final order of resource area delineation, which established that the wetland boundaries were correct. The top of coastal bank was correct. The limit of land subject to coastal storm was correct. And they determined about the coastal dune, and I'm reading right from the FORAD, which is the final order of resource area delineation. The department, it says other resource areas determined specifically coastal bank, land subject to coastal storm flowage, and coastal dune. The department has determined that the function of the coastal dune within the site is no longer significant to flood damage, storm damage prevention, and flood control. And that the limit of that coastal dune is this dashed line that Adrian is highlighting right now, which basically coincided with a landmark, which was Bayo Lane, and a soil unit. And so that is how the department determined where the coastal dune was on this property. But more importantly, they determined that this coastal dune no longer has the function of a coastal dune. And so that's what we ended up with after many years of discussion. So now, since that time, since that determination, the applicant has gone to the planning board. The intent of developing this property was fairly clear all along. There's an existing home on the site, and the owner wanted to establish 4 more lots. The applicant has gone to the planning board and completed the Form A process and actually created those lots. And we went to the planning board and got a special permit to construct a common driveway for access to 4 of those lots, the existing house plus 3 others. Those would be lots 2, 3, and 4. And so we're here tonight to ask for an order of conditions to basically improve that existing driveway that went up the slope. We have to widen it to 20 feet wide. We have to create a turnout at the top of the hill. And we need to install a water line leading to a hydrant at the top of the common drive. So this would occur within the buffer zone, the initial, there's a run of about 70 feet in the initial part of the driveway down by Atlantic Avenue that actually goes through buffer zone to the bordering vegetated wetland. But I will point out to you that the ground actually slopes up before it slopes down. So there's actually nothing that could actually migrate towards the wetlands from any work in that area. And then you'll see that the driveway crosses that portion of coastal dune, which no longer has any storm damage prevention or flood control function. I should point out and clarify that the department did reserve that the coastal dune could provide wildlife habitat functions of a coastal dune, but the regulations specify that wildlife habitat on a dune is mapped or otherwise identified bird nesting habitat. And I think we're fairly safe to say that there's no bird nesting habitat within the middle of this driveway, or perhaps even directly adjacent to it. And when we talk about habitat for coastal dunes, it's commonly associated with gulls, terns, and plovers, not necessarily a song sparrow or any other inland species. So the fact that the department reserved that there may be wildlife habitat function, I think it's clear to say that this special or this common driveway does not impact any coastal dune wildlife habitat function. So essentially it is with the, all the resource areas determined, this basically is a driveway construction project with installation of the water line. And that's it. I'd say the heavy lifting about where the resource areas are is long gone. I want to point out one drafting error on this plan. On lot 2, there's an area that's identified as an isolated wet area, and that was in fact determined to be a bordering vegetated wetland. There is an overflow. The other one to the top on lot 2, Adrian, that one. There is an overflow towards the right or towards the Essex County Greenbelt property that does eventually make it down the hill towards Digby Lane. This area was memorialized as a bordering vegetated wetland in the final order of resource area delineation. I have included those record plans in this filing, and so we can correct that Scribner's error if we need to. But basically, it's all the work that's shown here is outside of that buffer zone.
Okay.
So that's it.
Okay, first up, I'm going to open up for public comment. I know there's a lot of people wanting to speak about this project. I'm going to say it now. We can only review what's in front of us. Right now, we're here to review a road. And that's it. We don't talk about homes. We don't talk about zoning. We don't talk about any of those other things. We're here to discuss this road being improved and how it affects the resource, which is, as the applicant has stated, minimally shown to the southern side. I'm sorry, northeastern side of the lower end of the property. So we're going to open it up. If you want to speak, anyone who wishes to speak for or against the project at 348 and 50 Atlantic Avenue, you may do so now by hitting the raise your hand button or hitting *9 on your phone or a handheld device.
Okay, so there are 15 attendees on the call. There are 2 hands up at this time. So EB, I'm going to allow you to talk and ask you to unmute. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, thank you. My name is Elizabeth Bale. I am a direct abutter at 53 Atlantic Ave. And I am for the common driveway. I spoke for it at the meeting of the planning board because it's definitely better to have the driveways for these new houses off the common drive than off Atlantic Ave. I have a couple of questions and confusion of points in the letter that Mr. Manuel wrote to the commission about this project. One of them is just a clarification about that dashed line making that abrupt turn, the 90-degree angle there. And I was wondering, is that from the Mass DEP or how was that? It seems very odd to have that right angle there. And I just wanted to understand a little bit more about that. And I have a couple other questions. Do you want me to just say them or should I wait?
Yes, the process is that the applicant will take notes and then we're going to go through all the comments and then he'll go back and hopefully cover all the comments or questions asked. So
Okay,
yeah,
thank
just
you.
list them out, please.
Okay, thank you. So the just a couple more, 2 or 3 more things. One, he states we're not overly concerned with soil erosion. I just wanted to note that in the current driveway, water does pour down that driveway and bring soil with it into the intersection at Bungalow Road as it stands right now. So I don't know whether something can be done about that in the improvements to the driveway, but there is soil erosion currently. He notes also that construction of the drive will require limited vegetation removal in areas of Conservation Commission jurisdiction along Atlantic Ave. And I just wanted to put forward my request and hope that the large evergreens that are in excess of 20 feet tall along Atlantic Ave across from my property at 53 Atlantic Ave be preserved because they provide erosion control and privacy for both the coming homes and my home, and they are a very nice feature of the landscape. And the last thing is just that I was a little confused by the form Mass DEP WP Form 3 that was included where there item 7B checks the box for the project being exempt from Mass DEP stormwater management standards for the reason, quote, small residential subdivision less than or equal to 4 single-family houses, close quote. And as it shows on the plan to accompany notice of intent, 50 Atlantic Avenue, there are 5 lots, not 4. So that, I just was a little confused by that. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. Next.
Okay. There are now 4 additional hands up. So John Klein, I will allow you to talk and ask you to unmute. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is John Klein, 52 Castleview Drive. We're on the southwest edge of Lot 4. And a couple of questions. One, the driveway is not going to be paved initially. And would the order of conditions include that this is never going to be paved, or is there a plan to pave it later? Second question was about tree removal. What trees or vegetation is going to have to get removed in order to install this? And third, there are some proposed driveways from the common driveway up to each of the proposed houses. Is that construction going to be part of this done now, or is that going to be done later? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Okay, next is going to be Chris. I will allow you to talk and ask you to unmute. Please state your name and address for the record.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it changes around. Hold on. I'll try that again.
Hi, did that work?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for your time. My name is Chris Liconti. My mother is the owner of 1 Bungalow Road. And we are also concerned about some of the soil erosion that we have seen. Just as the previous attendee had mentioned, we also note that there's flooding in that area, pumping into the marshland behind us to the pond. Our fence is actually already damaged because of that. So we just wanted to express our concern about drainage with the new driveway, and express some concern about potential runoff.
Okay, is that it, sir?
That's it from my end. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Okay, next is Peter Kelly. I will allow you to talk and ask you to unmute. Please state your name and address for the record.
Okay, my name is Peter Kelly. I am at 50 Castleview Drive, near lot 5, one of the lots, lot 4 or 5. I can't remember which one. Lot 4, I guess. So I'm abutting lot 4. I guess my major statement is that there is other wildlife other than the birds associated with this area. We have a lot of deer, a lot of other flora and fauna that actually use this as a route to between the Essex River March and Jones Creek, and we see them every day traversing through the deer paths through lot 2, 3, and 4. And they do use that area substantially. There are a lot of animals there, and we're concerned that it's going to affect that migration pattern to and from the 2 marsh areas by these animals. We're also concerned with the amount of trees that will be pulled down. There's a lot of privacy in the back of our yard where these lots are now proposed to be putting in. And we're concerned that the removal of the trees is just going to just change the landscape substantially for us and our fellow abutters on this property. There is some questions as far as each of the lots. I understand that, we can't talk about the development of the additional houses. Certainly, we will attend the meetings when those come in for approvals. But we are concerned with, that the wildlife is affected, the septic systems draining into Sleepy Hollow Pond are at issue, and that, in general, this is a very large change, starting with a very small change in the area. And we just want to make sure that the existing fauna isn't affected substantially by it all. That's the only thing. I just would like that to be addressed.
Okay, thank you, sir. Before we go any further, though, I want to let everyone know, if you don't understand the buffer zones on this plan, I understand. But jurisdictionally, we only probably have control over half, if not less than half of this lot. Just so people understand, the northern tier is basically outside of our jurisdiction, or the upper lot 2, 3, and 4. 4 is somewhat controlled by us, but 2 and 3 are pretty much out of our jurisdiction. So you need to understand that. Otherwise, we don't have any control over that aspect. So who's next, Adrian?
There are no other comments at this time.
Okay. So if we want to cycle back, Mr. Manuel, to the, I don't know if you wrote all these down, but I'll hit the high spots. I think you heard them, but one is the erosion and the problem. I've seen it. I think we've all seen it. Anyone who's been down there at the foot of this road is always done something in terms of either flooding or sands or just dirt sliding off down that. The other being vegetation removal to put this road in, and what the road is going to be, the finished product of this phase. Is it going to be gravel? Is it going to be asphalt? So I think those were the 3 big takes, but feel free to answer them all.
Yeah, well, I'll try to start from the top with respect to the limits of the dune. That is what the department determined to be the limits of the dune, and that is what's on the plans of the final ORAD. I admit it's an odd shape, but it was, I think the department found that their supposition that this was coastal dune was not perhaps the best evaluation, and that was their perhaps remedy to the situation, is to declare that area to be dune, and a dune which has no function. With respect to the erosion, the runoff down the driveway, this is going to be a gravel driveway. The commission, if it were to be paved later on, obviously we'd have to come back to the commission, but right now the plans show it's a gravel driveway. The soils to the left and right of the driveway are obviously fairly sandy, and it is our intention to crown the driveway so that water runs off to the left and right. We may have to, on a construction basis, we may have to put little sort of runoffs or runouts, if you will, to direct any water that might run down the gutter of this driveway off into the adjacent lots, so that it will percolate into the sand. We certainly don't want water washing all the way down the driveway and out into Atlantic Avenue. In terms of trees that are in the buffer zone or in the dune area, I think the initial run of the driveway is fairly open. And I think it's fairly limited to just grass and grass species and the like. We don't start to get into any shrub removal until we get higher up on the driveway, and those areas are outside of Concom jurisdiction. There was questions about flooding. All I can say is that perhaps you mean flooding around the intersection of Mayo Lane.
I think
The
that was the
area-
concern, yes.
Yeah, the area is chronically has drainage problems. You can see every time you drive up the road, the drainage swales along the roadway are nothing more than, a swale a few inches deep that are frequently clogged up with leaves and sticks and other debris. So it's not surprising that there is water accumulation on the road there. It's not our intention to exacerbate that in any way. With respect to wildlife, this project does not exceed any of the wildlife habitat impact thresholds for any of the wetland resource areas. Buffer zones do not have a wildlife habitat impact threshold.
Okay. I think that covers it. Commissioner, why don't we roll call commissioner comments? Adrian?
From commissioners, Commissioner Cook.
He can't speak, he's.
Oh, that's
recused.
right, he's recused. I'm sorry. Commissioner Gradwell.
Barry, any comments? He's blocked. You're not on, Barry. Barry?
Who's
No
with us?
comment.
Okay.
No comments? Okay.
Commissioner Sargent.
Yes, even though this doesn't have all of the functions of a common coastal dune, it still is a resource area. And the regulations clearly say that vegetation shouldn't be removed because it could destabilize the coastal dune, even though this isn't fronting, say, a beach or anything else. So we're talking about somewhere around 2,840 square feet of resource area that's going to be permanently altered. And then if we're looking at the buffer zone, there'll be more vegetation removed, close to 5,000 square feet of vegetation area that would be removed. And there's no mitigation that's planned at all in this on this plan at all. And to me, that's very curious. The other thing that I'm really wondering about is where the driveway leaves Atlantic Avenue. Why does it bend to the left into the 100-foot buffer to the BVW rather than more to the right, so that it doesn't go into the the buffer zone as well? And my recollection is that there is woody vegetation a little bit further up on right about there, Adrian. And I think the orthos will also show that from there up, you're starting to get some scrub woody vegetation. And down below, it's mostly dune grass. But that's my recollection as well.
Okay, I think I'm up next. So I would agree with everything that Mr. Sargent just said. I'm not overly, maybe we need to continue this to just maybe come up with some, I believe it's an existing gravel driveway. So, and it's going to continue to be an existing gravel driveway. I guess what's being improved is the width in the crown. The rest of it is pretty much as it is. And maybe that's why you followed that curve as per Mr. Sargent's concern. Mine would be is that there is a significant amount of vegetation there too. I think we could come up with a plan, or the applicant could come up with a plan that could do twofold probably here. In the jurisdictional areas for us, either get some plantings on the edges, crown the road, but maybe we get some plantings along the edge, especially down where this whole erosion issue is. And maybe we can combine a couple of things here to make this a better project for the environment and for the applicant. I can see it being a problem. It's been an erosion problem, but you can almost see it in this picture, the sand billowing out onto Atlantic Ave right there. So at the very least, I think the applicant would be crazy not to try and fix this in some way or fashion for themselves, the applicant and the environment. But I think something that might help with that is some small brushy vegetation along the road, at least in the jurisdictional area, to kind of manage the erosion and offset the mitigation issues. that make sense, Mr. Manuel?
Yes, we've come a long way on this project, and everybody wants it to be a success. So I hear the concerns of some of the people that commented. We don't want soil running down onto Atlantic Avenue. We don't want dunes eroding away. So, I don't think there's any harm in continuing this to evaluate some of those concerns. And I'm sure there are solutions we can come up with to alleviate some of the concerns that were addressed tonight.
Excellent. And Joe, you want to have anything to say?
No, I have no comments and beyond what others have said.
Okay, Adrian, anything to add?
Commissioners, are you interested in a site visit?
That probably wouldn't hurt. I mean, just to see really, the orthos, I don't think do us any justice. So I wouldn't mind doing a site walk. I don't know if anyone else is. It's been a while since I've been up there, just to get a little bit of a lay of the land between now and the next meeting. I think the applicant can keep moving forward on what we talked about, but it wouldn't hurt for me. I can do it, well, if I get the applicant's approval, I could probably just do it on my own if nobody else wants to join. Do I by default, I think I have the applicant's approval, do I not?
Yeah, I just have to check with the applicant to make sure there's nobody in the house that needs to be.
Yeah, I'd only stay on the road.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You mean on the driveway or on the road?
Yeah, I'd stay on the driveway.
Yeah, we just have to make sure that there's nobody in the house that
Okay.
would be alarmed if you drove up there.
I'd walk it, but that's fine. Yes, please request approval.
Yeah,
for
and
me
I'll
to
let
go.
Adrian know.
Okay. Any other commissioners?
If there's going to be a formal site visit, I'll attend, but.
Okay. All right, I'll talk with Mr. Manuel about it tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
if there's more than one, I'd like the opportunity to be there to walk commission members around and matter of fact, I'd insist on it. So, so if we need a site visit, then, let's schedule one and do it appropriately.
Okay. I'm with
Okay,
that.
thank you.
If you want to schedule it, include Gradwell.
All righty. With that then, I guess we're ready to continue to February 2nd. Is that what we're going for?
Yeah, let's try February 2nd. I may need to continue it one more after that.
Okay.
Okay, in that case, Commissioner Jackson moves to continue NOI 0282822 at 30, 48, and 50 Atlantic Avenue to the Conservation Commission meeting of February 2nd, 2022.
Gradwell seconds.
And roll call, Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Co-Chairman Gullah,
Yes.
and Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Manuel. Have a great night. Are we moving on to extensions, correct?
We are, and I do not see the applicant's representative for 028263432 Coles Island Road on the call. So by default, the commission will have to continue that to the next regularly scheduled meeting unless she's here and I just don't recognize her call in. And if you are, then please feel free to raise your hand. We'll give it a minute.
We'll shift down in case she pops up. What's her name?
Abby Manzi, but I don't see her
Okay.
right now.
Why don't we move on to the other Marble Road extensions and we'll circle back, see if she's here at the end.
Okay.
Point of record, Bill's back.
Thank you, Bill. Welcome back.
All right. We're up to extension 28-2422, 29 and 34 Marble Road, Lichtenstein, Barney Lichtenstein applicant.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Thank you. And Bill Manuel, it's good to see you. Bill had originally done the survey.
Name and address for the record, sir?
Oh, Marnie Lichtenstein, where I live or the address in Gloucester?
It doesn't really matter. Where you live is ideal.
4412 Finley Avenue, number 2, Los Angeles, California, 90027.
Okay, and reason for the extension?
I wrote about a 1-minute statement, if I could make it. It's easier for me to read it.
Sure.
If I could, thank you.
I'll start the clock.
Okay.
I'm on.
Again, my apologies for misunderstanding earlier when I thought you were.
No worries, no worries. It's a busy
Okay.
night.
My mother suffered a severe stroke in 2013. I was assigned POA and I developed the property to potentially pay for her nursing home care. The equity of her home paid for her care there, and her health deteriorated. And she went on hospice at one point. And I was advised not to sell the property on Marble Road until her home equity ran out, which it did just prior to her death. As it turned out, sorry?
Oh, no, I just saw her, just unfortunate for.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, she died in March of 2018, and it took 3.5 years after that to settle the estate, which was not finalized until just this past November 23rd, 2021, in part due to the pandemic, which stalled action in the Middlesex court for over a year. I was advised by the estate attorney not to attempt selling the land until the estate was settled completely. In the meantime, I had a little work done on the land in terms of having Dan Ottenheimer work on an engineering plan that hadn't been completed, but it still needs a well dug, which could be quite expensive depending how deep it goes, and additional legal work regarding easements, trust funds, etc., since it involves 2 properties, which could also be very costly depending on how much work is needed. So due to past delays, due to the estate issues and the pandemic, and the future being uncertain as to how long the pandemic will last, especially if there's another lockdown, which could affect showing and marketing the land, and material costs for construction, which you may have heard have been soaring recently in part due to the pandemic, and hopefully will go down again at some point. The length of the construction, which could be interfered with if the pandemic gets worse again. I'm requesting a 3-year renewal of the approved plans to give me some leeway in case it takes longer for things to get back to normal.
Okay, typically we really don't go 3 years just because we like to keep track of things and have people come back, but I don't know how other commissioners feel about it. 3 years can be a long time, a lot can happen.
I'd be glad to come back every year and, give a statement every year as to how it's going, if that would help.
It might. Commissioners, how do you feel about 3 years? Don't all jump at once.
This is pretty unusual circumstances, Rob.
I would concur. I would agree.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the 3 years. I mean, with everything that's going on, the existing circumstances, it doesn't seem like it's going to get resolved in a year.
That's true. Adrian, anything to add?
No, I think I agree with all of you. I have been working with Mr. Lichtenstein a little bit, and it's true the property hasn't actually seen any activity of any kind, and there is some extensive work to be done. So we would essentially be collecting a fee year over year from this applicant, knowing that they have at least 3 years of work to do ahead of them. So.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree. This is unique. It's basically starting over. He lost the years and a whole lot of bad things. So I'm fine with it as well. This is unique and deserves 3 years. Basically, like I said, just starting over. So with that, and Joe, do you want to put a motion, or is
Sure.
this
Commissioner Jackson moves to approve a 3-year extension for 29 and 34 Marble Road, EXT 0282422.
Gradwall seconds.
The roll call, Commissioner Cook. Commissioner Gradwall.
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent.
Yes.
Co-Chair Mangala.
Yes.
And Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, do we just vote on only one? We're going to do the other now?
Yeah, there's the same circumstances, yes.
Okay. You want to move that one, Joe?
Okay. Commissioner Jackson moves to approve extension 0282486 at 29 Marble Road for 3 years.
Okay,
Gradwell seconds.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Co-Chairman Gullah,
Yes.
and Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so you're all set. Sorry for your
Okay.
troubles.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, next up is, assuming Abby has not come back for 32 Coles Island Road, we'll move on to 2 certificates of compliance, RCOC 28-2756 and RCOC 28-2730. I guess we just got to move to approve these 8. Are these all set?
Yes, I got a chance to go out to Sunset Point Road because one of the abutters, if you'll recall, is a house that actually did go up on piers. I think it's number 13 Sunset Point Road. And their abutter on the opposite side of that is in a very small cottage, and they had some concerns about the roadway and where it was located on the permit plan and where they were locating it. They were hoping to move it. So in fact, I actually spent a good deal of time out at Sunset Point Road. That project is very much complete. And 528 Washington Street also has satisfied the requirements of the order of conditions. That was a pier project, or dock and float system, excuse me.
Okay. Want to move those in, Joe, to approve?
Certainly. Commissioner Jackson moves to approve RCOC 0282756 at 548 Washington Street and RCOC 0282730 at 15 Sunset Point Road.
And Gradwell seconds.
The roll call, Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Co-Chairman Gullah,
Yes.
and Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so anybody showing up for 32 Coles?
No, I have no one for 32 Coles Island right now.
Do we need them, do you think, for this?
I would like to talk to them. That is actually
Okay.
a big project. It's a, they were essentially building an arboretum out there.
Okay.
So I'm
That's
curious
fine.
to know what's going on.
Understood. So the only other thing is just to confirm, I guess this might be a sidewalk to the property off Atlantic and a sidewalk over at the park.
Yep.
And then a meeting potentially for the commission, an executive, not executive meeting. What do you call it? What we're gonna have
Administrative.
administrative meeting,
February 3rd, hopefully.
February 3rd.
Gradwell checked his calendar. That night's fine.
Okay.
Bill's free that night.
Okay,
I'll have to check. I think I'm fine.
okay.
But I would just put those dates for the sidewalks, get those worked out, Adrian, and then just confirm the street administrative meeting.
Yes. And I just want to say thank you to Commissioners Jackson, Sargent, and Cook for your willingness to be reappointed and tolerance of the pain. I really appreciate your service on the Conservation Commission. It makes a huge difference to have commissioners return term over term, year over year. Your institutional knowledge is priceless, and your understanding of the regulations is so valuable. Thank you.
I think the only question is what institution should we really be committed to?
That is an open question for us all, for all of us.
Yes, and we
Yes.
appreciate your support, Adrian. That keeps us
Yes.
together.
Yes, exactly. I second that.
Thank you.
All right, who wants to move to adjourn?
Commissioner Jackson moves to adjourn.
And Gradwell has to second it.
Yes, you do.
Okay, Commissioner Cook,
Okay.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Co-Chair Mangala,
Yes.
and Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you very much, everyone.
All right, we moved a lot of
Everybody have a
product. We
very
did well
good
tonight.
week.
Yep.
Be safe.
So when will these be available?
I will drop them tomorrow for you for signatures at noon.
Remember, there's that one particular one where I forget which one or two of them that's going to require 4 signatures. So
Yes.
be
I will be.
cognizant of that.
Yep, very conscious of that. Yep.
Okay.
All right,
Be
everyone.
well, everybody.
Thank
Okay,
you.
I'll sign them Monday, I hope.
Okay, drop in while you're there, or at least try.
Okay,
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
good night, everyone.